Hey guys, good to see a few of you already in the chat. I've literally been waiting for this all day. Oh, I'm honored, man. I'm honored. Must have been a boring day then, huh? Happy to relieve you of your waiting time. Hey Don, audio video looks good. Happy to hear that. Thank you very much. So yeah, a lot has happened since we last talked. I've not been here Friday because I had to help out my family. Missed the Allen saga. So yeah, it is what it is, right? Can't be at the computer all the time. Who said crypto is boring? Yeah, finally moved again. We're gonna talk about what this breakout means, where it's gonna go, what I think should be maintained for this trend to maintain, and then we'll go over some altcoins. I think that's pretty much enough for today. Ellen DeGeneres, the CEO of Tesla. Shit, I hate it. I can't get rid of it. Elon, not Ellen. Whatever. Enough of the bullying. So yeah, high time frame wise, Bitcoin. I mean, I say this every week. Weird trading view lag there. I say this every week. It's just bullish, right? Don't even know why this is red. It's green. Yeah, there's no real reason to be bearish in the high time frames, right? I mean, yes, it's getting a little bit crazy. I mean, if you look at the monthly, 5 green candles in a row, it's a little bit much. But then again, I mean, we've had crazy runs before. This is one of the more crazy times, I'd say, if not the craziest. So 5 green candles isn't too much for that, in my opinion. So, I mean, this can go. There's no real reason to be bearish high time frame wise. Then again, this could pull back a shitload and still be bullish, right? Which doesn't mean we have to pull back, just means even if it does pull back, we're still in the bull trend, right? With like support being at 20k, next one on the high time frames, right? And this is different on the lower time frames, but on the high time frames, you have support at 20 and 14k. So I mean, there would be a lot of room for bulls to still be very comfortable, right? Obviously, wouldn't want to see that, but yeah. The weekly time frame, similar story. It's just bullish. We talked about this last week. This could just be a pullback in this kind of trend. I mean, you can barely see any red here. We finally put in 2 candles of red. Now we could make this into kind of this consolidation that we shouldn't break to the downside, right? So anything above there, super bullish, starting to go below there, and maybe we start chopping or actually start retesting lower supports, right? So this is the kind of area to hold. I know it's a big box. I think in general, like 38k, if we do start pulling back, should be good support. And if we go low, 32. So the boundaries of the box more than anything in the box. But yeah, I think that's the next support that we have. Finally, some form of structure, right? We haven't really had that in a long time. I mean, even if you look just at the chart like this, there's not really anything or like any kind of consolidation that we've done all the way from 10 to 50k. It's just been straight up, and this is the first one that we've had. It's pretty short. I mean, 2 weeks of red. I'm not entirely sure if that's enough to digest this entire move. But then again, with like news of Elon Musk buying into, or like Tesla anyway, Tesla buying into Bitcoin. I mean, that's pretty big news. And if you remember back, we talked about the infinite bid returning at 30k, right? Back then, I was like, okay, this is starting to be weirding me out because it's acting relatively similar to how we've done in the 10k range. Turns out that's basically Elon Musk buying. So Elon, Jesus, Elon, I hate his guts for having this kind of name. It's the German in me. Excuse my pronunciation. I'm getting enough shit from Cred. You guys don't need to pile on and bully me as well. Elon. It's never gonna fix itself. But yeah, you get the point, right? So yeah, I had Infinite Bit show up there. Let me put this on the monthly time frame, weekly time frame. And reclaimed support that we've lost, and then just went straight up from there. And yeah, this is something in this kind of market that we're having right now. I like to say TA and lines are only that they're not really as important as they usually are, because I mean we broke support here, right? And you could have expected a major dump coming from this, and it started to shape out that way. And then you get a big person or a big company or whatever just buys into crypto, into Bitcoin, and then those lines don't mean anything anymore, right? It's more about momentum. It's more about, if anything, if you get reclaims of lost supports, that's a bullish sign. This happened here, right? And then, I mean, the moment we started breaking out below the swing, above the swing low, just rocketed upwards. And I mean, that's something that I think has been happening this entire run, and I mean, it's probably going to continue to do so. Like the moment we get someone that wants to allocate a lot of money into Bitcoin or into crypto in general, you just gotta have to be careful, right? If you want to short the confirmed breakdown, you gotta be quick to get out if it does get reclaimed. And most of the time, really, we've gotten, like, if you want to short it, you've gotten a pretty decent exit. In this case, you've had this breakdown. Let's say you short it in here, you get the retest here, right? And I mean, if you're in a bull market like this and you're shorting this, which is already dangerous, if you're not getting out on a reclaim into retest, that's just bad trading, in my opinion. And it's the same thing here, right? Where you have support and then you break back above it. Let me actually make it more obvious what I'm talking about. We don't need these anymore. So whenever you have this kind of structure, right? So you have support being lost, then reclaimed, and then retested. Let's say you get short on anything like in here because you're like, okay, this broke down, which is fair, right? I mean, it's not right in this instance. You wouldn't have made money, but I mean, these kind of setups do work sometimes. But if you're taking these in a bull market, you gotta get out when it does get reclaimed and then retested. I mean, that's the best exit you're gonna get. And it's obviously also the best kind of long entry that you're gonna get if you're looking for longs. So, I mean, I've just, I mean, the reason why I talked about shorts is because, I mean, that's the harder kind of direction to play in this kind of market, obviously, when it just goes up. On the long side, the same thing is true, right? You just, whenever you get a short setup and that gets blown out the window, you don't even have to take the short setup. Something that I've done, just not taking the short setups. I've just been looking for them to fail, basically, and then you get a free long on the other side of it, right? So you get a breakdown, a short setup presents itself, and then you're just like, okay, I'm gonna wait till that gets invalidated, and that invalidation is an entry for a long setup. And in this case, worked pretty well. This case, same here, right? You get a short setup in here, and I mean, this is even more obvious of a short setup. You get a breakdown into retest, right? And then yeah, it gets reclaimed. Someone big buys, and that's been the history of any kind of breakdown, really. I mean, same with 12 to 10K, where Saylor just bought. Now we have this here where it starts breaking down, and then Musk buys. So yeah, that's something to watch out for. Any questions to that? I literally can't remember the last time I thought of a higher time frame sell. I mean, there's no higher time frame sell because there's no higher time frame resistance, right? The last time where we've had high time frame resistance, and I mean, I did short that was this area, right? And then we broke down, and then we got big buys come in there. So that was the last high time frame resistance. I don't I never trusted these all-time high resistances. I mean, you can take them, but it's just not good, right? In my opinion, whenever you have something that looks like this, like, do you really want to short this, or do you want to look for longs when it does maybe pull back and then at least breaks out a little bit, right? So, I mean, in my opinion, that was the last high time frame, the last high time frame sell. The problem with looking for high time frame sales in general in a bull market like this, it's gonna take ages, right? You're not gonna get anything on this. Like, this is only gonna turn bearish when like 90% of the move's already been done. So it doesn't really pay to be too bearish, in my opinion, just based on the fact, like, if you're looking for high time frame sells, right? It's based on nothing here. Because there's no resistance, you cannot really say it's overextended, because really what you've done is you've had a run like this, right? A massive run, and then you had ages of consolidation. I mean, this is years, right? 2017 to 20, 3 years of just consolidation, right? And then we broke out, and if you're looking for high time frame sells, while, I mean, you could say, yeah, this is overextended, and I mean, it most certainly, like, we are getting overextended, but that doesn't really matter, because you're not getting any signals here, right? You can't make any argument for anything, and then once you do get a signal, which would be below maybe 20 or below maybe 14K if you're bear, I mean, if you're expecting much lower, might as well just not trade it, right? Because where's your entry, where's your exit, where's your stop loss? If you're looking for an entry, once it does lose like 14K, one, you're just gonna have to wait for ages if that even is gonna happen at some point, and two, you're just stuck in something that you don't really want to be trading, right? The short side in general, I don't recommend people just get into a market to short it, because you can only gain so much from shorting, right? There's unlimited gains that you can have from longing. So if you're not bullish on something, if you're not bullish on the market, don't trade it, in my opinion. If your overarching thesis on the market isn't bullish, just don't touch it. So that's kind of my opinion on that. On the daily time frame, how would this, like, because like I said, on the monthly time frame, this would have to go to 20K or below even 14K to start flipping bearish, right? That doesn't help you one bit, because I mean, if it does that, you've already lost pretty much everything, and it's very likely to just not happen, right? So how would you know when to take some profit or kind of exit, whatever, take it slow? And in my opinion, the best way to judge this, and let's go on a clean chart to kind of look at it, is with the recent news, right? It's been the best kind of indicator for bottoms and tops, well, mainly bottoms anyway, in crypto. Whenever you get good news, right, in a bull market, what happens is you get a spike up, right? I mean, the Tesla candle here, and I'm avoiding saying Elon, because I'm gonna get bullied again if I do. But yeah, the Tesla is just one example. If you're looking back at the sailor buys, right, they were in here. If you get bullish news in a bull market, you don't want to see them undercut. So in this case, I mean, he bought here, he bought a bunch more here, right? You never, like, the moment you started moving up, you never want to see those go, right? Those shouldn't go back in a loss, just based on the fact that if they do, shows underlying weakness rather than strength, right? You don't want to see that. It's the same thing here, right? If you caught the news early, and this is something that I've recommended pretty much anyone that's been on the stream, put on these, like, put Elon on notifications, right? There's edge there. It's sad to say, right? But the market is so, like, it's such a frenzy right now. It makes sense to have people on notification that if they tweet, the market moves 10, 15, 20%, right? Because you can make money off of that relatively easily and relatively risk-free. So I'm pretty sure he didn't tweet it, but news came just out from an SEC filing. But still, right, if you have, like, people on notification that are gonna notify you of that. I had LoomDart, for example, pretty much the second it came out, LoomDart was messaging me. I was obviously on the road, so couldn't do anything about it. But that's something very valuable to have. And then the thing is, like, if you get in on that, right? You get in on that action. The obvious stop loss is below the lows that were set before the news came out, right? So in this case, in my opinion, we've had that Tesla candle. We really shouldn't undercut this anymore. It should just be like, if anything goes sideways here, go up. If we do undercut it, I think the most reasonable invalidation for being just a macro bullish would be a loss of this area where you had a Tesla buy, right? So 30 to 33K ish. That shouldn't give. I think this is the area where it's really the line in the sand, as this 10K area was. And for like the shorter time frame traders, I really don't think we should be dropping below this candle here again. And that's pretty comfy invalidation to have if you're targeting higher. It's obviously an aggressive trade if you got in. I don't see a good reason to just jump out. This is a correction, and we're going to get these corrections, right? And we have been getting them just based on the fact that people are just over leveraging like crazy right now, which is something you have to be careful of. When you see fundings go up like crazy, when you see people just trying to front run everything with massive leverage, that starts to get dangerous, right? So that's why I think this is the aggressive stop loss, right? Where you're like, okay, I don't want to be involved, because I mean, I could still, like, based on the fact how highly leveraged the system is right now, I could still see this get taken out on a wick basis, but we really shouldn't be consolidating down here or even here, and we really shouldn't lose 30K, right? Anything above there, and I don't really see a good reason to be, at least on the higher time frames, which are the monthly, weekly, and daily, to be bearish here. But yeah, that's kind of my Bitcoin view on this, up until proven otherwise. And yeah, we've had one proven otherwise yet, which was this bearish retest of the breakdown, right? But like I said, the moment stuff gets reclaimed, or even better, something that you can watch out for, right? Let's say you get a bearish signal and then it doesn't play out immediately. It's not worth holding those in a market like this. Like, if you get a bearish signal or like a bearish trade, you don't want to be taking that and then just sticking with it, right? If it doesn't nuke immediately, you're most likely wrong. And obviously, the flip side is also true, right? So let's say you get a bearish signal, you de-risk on longs, and then it doesn't play out. What do? You can just risk on again. And yeah, the reason why I like to talk about the short side so much on this is because whenever I'm talking about the short side, you pick out an invalidation, right? And that invalidation is the best kind of entry for longs and has been. So it's easier to explain stuff on the short side than it is on the long side, because on the long side, if you're looking at this, right? If you're looking at this kind of market, where do you get long is really, really difficult, right? Because I mean, it's just been going up nonstop. It's much easier to look for short setups that get invalidated and take that as a long. It's much better. It's happened a few times in this rally, most notably this one, like I said earlier. But like I said, the 10K too. Same thing really here, where you just start breaking out again and again and again, right? So I can make this clear as well. You have this high here. You're like, okay, oh, it's got reclaimed, should act as support. It doesn't, it fails, right? And then you get shorts pile in, and the moment it starts getting flipped again, that's the short setup that is failed, and then it's just mega moons, right? So both work, and yeah, I think it's easier to say, okay, look for these, than okay, just long any breakdown, because I mean, that's not the good way to trade, in my opinion, even though it has worked, right? Any kind of breakdown you've longed, you've made money on, but I don't think it's a good good strategy to have. I like this much more. So yeah. Cred, you did not shill airdrop coins. That's why. Oh, because of the likes. Yeah, people's been slacking on the likes. Yeah, but I don't. I'm not looking at the likes too much. I try to avoid it because I mean it's already with Twitter. It's bad. The addiction to likes and the addiction to being validated by random people on the internet. While I appreciate it, right? Not a good addiction to have. If everyone's buying, who's selling? I mean, the thing is, right? Most people, including me, this goes up, right? You have like preset targets, and you just take some off. I gotta say, like I took too much off too early. That said, my original plan was because I kind of made my goals happen, right? I got into this market with some specific goals in mind, and was very lucky to kind of take this entire run with me. I was very lucky to not lose anything really. I made some money on the drop on both the altcoins and the Bitcoin front, and then went sideways. And that was really where I was really good at trading this, right? So I started meeting my goals in this already when we're hitting this, right? So my kind of trading goals were hit in the sideways movement, right? So I was just starting to take risk off, kind of rebalance everything, because I realized that I was like pretty much all in. Like I've been all in crypto from down here all the way to here, basically. So if it went to zero, right, I would have lost everything. And I mean, I stopped my studies. I stopped everything that I had in the works. I was like, okay, probably not gonna go to zero, but it's a little bit high of a risk to take, right? So up here, I de-risk a shitload. It broke down, and I was happy about like having de-risk a lot. Still was super nervous about this drop because I mean I was just scary, just seeing crypto go this steep. Didn't really take much of a hit, but yeah, I didn't really gain too much on the way back up either. So for me, it's just been I've just been de-risking basically my portfolio, and that's been good in general on my mental health and everything, because I was super stressed 24/7 the entire way up. But then again, like imagining having sold here a bunch of my longer term holdings. I mean, no matter that they were bought like down here, hurts when you're looking at this kind of price rise. But then again, still have enough to be happy about it, but it obviously still stings. And I think a lot of you guys probably feel the same way. And I mean, the thing is with these kind of things, you never know, right? It's always easy to say in hindsight, but I try to not beat myself up too much about this kind of stuff. It's just is what it is, right? So yeah. Cope moral grandstanding, shut the fuck up. Cred's already in the chat bullying again. Need to ban him. Do you trade altcoins against Bitcoin too? I currently don't trade much, just based on the fact that I can't, based on new tax rulings in Germany. But gonna get back into it relatively soon. With regards to the altcoins, I can trade spot markets. My problem with trading the altcoins, right? So over the years, I've adopted this strategy where I'm looking for a strong pair and a weak pair, right? Let's say looking for a weak pair. In my eyes, that's been YFI. I've looked at YFI. I've kind of made it out to be relatively weak, right? I mean, relatively obviously Y, right? We don't even need those. So you have a high here, very obvious, head and shoulders, whatever. This started breaking down, right? And then got a big bounce out of it, never made a higher high, and then just went sideways, basically. So this, in my eyes, was pretty weak, right? So what I usually do is I look for a weak pair. YFI has been that weak pair. I look for a good short entry, short it, right? And then I look for a strong pair, and there's so many out there. But if you're looking at the bigger ones, for example, ETH, very different market structure, right? And I mean, you can even see this when you're looking at the two. like this, right? So you can kind of see the relative strength. So obviously during Wi-Fi's rise, ETH kind of sucked. But now, like for the last, wow, it's already been quite some time. Yeah, since like the last 4 months, ETH's massively outperformed Wi-Fi. So I look for these, and then I just long one and short the other, stay relatively neutral while still getting the majority of the benefit of the altcoin rises. Now that I can't take one leg of the trade anymore, which is shorting the weak pair, I would just have to expose myself to the strong pair, and that's a little bit difficult to do when you've had this relationship work for you so well. But yeah, I'm getting used to it slowly. Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi. Both works, right? But yeah, so the same thing that I've done prior to this year with Link, right? And we're gonna look through some altcoins. Excuse me jumping around. Just my way of working these things. So Link, for example, it's been really, really, really strong over the years, right? All the other altcoins went to shit basically, and Link's just been rallying and rallying. Well, that relationship changed in the middle of last year, and then Link's just been underperforming everything. And those kind of relationships, right? You look at this and you're like, okay, yeah, I can't really make any money off of this, but in my opinion, this is the best kind of way to make money off of the altcoins, right? Because you feel much more secure when you're picking out strong and weak ones and then just trading them against each other. And I mean, if you're bullish altcoins, right, and you're like, okay, I think altcoins in general should be going up, then you can do like 70% of a position on the long side and 30% on the short side, right? And let's say the short side goes up and the long side goes up, you still make money on this, right? You even make like, even if it's 50-50, you would expect the stronger pair to outperform. With regards to Link, it's actually like people think I hate Link. It's not the case. I don't like the Link community, or like most of them, the most vocal ones anyway, just based on the fact that they hate when you talk about shorting or like in general being bearish this. But I think like, yes, this is a bearish retest, right? This was a breakdown. Like we had this massive rally, we had a blow off top here, and then we had this breakdown, right? So yes, this is bearish technically, but we're approaching support, kind of wicked into it already. So if it does reclaim that, I think there's a good way to go on this. And I think in general, the daily chart kind of is really interesting, where you have this support failure, right? Something that I always look out for when you have range. You drop out of the range, you get back into the range. Usually you go up, right? In this case, you dropped out of the range, went up a little bit, and then dropped out of it. This is usually bearish when it happens, right? But sometimes you get this action where you get back into the range and then just go up. So this is something that I'm waiting for on Link. I want to see this go back above here, and then I would expect it to just go ballistic again, right? So for me, that's the Link setup. I'm not going to be the one buying the bottom on Link. I find it much more attractive if it does reclaim again, because then what you can do in this situation, right, is, let me remove all of this. It goes back up here, right? So your invalidation is down here, right? Because this is pretty much the shakeout that you've had. You really shouldn't go back below there anymore. And then your target can be as wide as you want it to be, right? It wouldn't be unrealistic to target into these highs. It wouldn't even be unrealistic to target for new all-time highs. So that kind of situation is much more comfortable than longing here, not knowing where to put your stop. I mean, you could put it here, but then again, it's still like it just broke down in a bearish fashion. So I'd feel much worse in that position than I would feel in this position, right? So it doesn't even have to go all the way back into support, right? Let's say this breaks up. Doesn't have to do this kind of mini retest, can just be interesting above it as long as it does close above it. So yeah, that's kind of like, and it's interesting to me that these two pairs, I mean, those are the crowd favorites, right? Link and the Wi-Fi have been struggling. Something that we've kind of seen is that everything that has a lot of holders hasn't been doing too well, while everything that has few holders has been doing incredibly well. One of the examples that I can name that I've been chilled a shitload is Cake, for example. Barely anyone knew about it, and then it just went ballistic, right? And you don't want to counter trade that kind of momentum. Let's say this breaks down. I think there's going to be a really interesting long opportunity if it does break down. And I mean, longing here is kind of, I mean, that's a little bit crazy in my eyes. But then again, like these kind of momentum plays have been really good. So in my opinion, how to kind of move in this market is you look for strength and then you just you ape into the strength, right? So the strength has been in the DeFi pairs and in the ETH competitors and in general in the ETH ecosystem as a whole. It's not been anywhere else really. I've seen people promote EOS and I really don't understand, right? I mean, this might go up, but like, why? I've seen people promote other stuff, like, I mean, Litecoin even. I've tried Litecoin, right? I tried my hand at Litecoin, but when it doesn't want to go, I don't want to waste my time, right? Because your time should be spent doing better things. And when you see this, right, you see Litecoin like this, and then you see Cake doing this, then you're obviously spending your time wrong, right? Doesn't mean, okay, Litecoin will never go up, but it's clear where the action is and where it isn't. So the thing with Link is that USD and BTC charts scream different, so I just avoid it. Probably will look for shorts, even though the project is good. I think in general, the best way to go about that kind of discrepancy between like the BTC and the USD pair, right, is that you can just wait for them to align, right? So if you have let's say you look at Link BTC and you're like, okay, this is clearly bearish, right? And I mean, I can understand that. Technically, if the crypto market wasn't so strong, right, I would be looking for shorts in here. It's the same setup that you can take on the other side, right? Short setup in here, stop loss roughly here, and then you can target new lows, right? That would work in a weak crypto market. I'm not entirely sure if I would take this in the market like this, where everything's exploding, right? But let's say that is the case, right? You're looking for shorts on Link. Well, you can kind of wait for this to turn bearish, right? So I mean, if you wanted to, you can say this is a rising wedge, whatever. Excuse my drawing. If it starts breaking down, then you're like, okay, Link BTC looks pretty shitty. I'm just gonna take that trade off of the Link BTC pair because the risk definition is better there, and then you avoid like Link USD looking good, Link BTC looking bad, that kind of dilemma, because that always sucks, right? You have a bullish setup on one, bearish setup on the other. Usually that only means that like if the USD pair looks strong and the Bitcoin pair looks weak, what that usually means is that Bitcoin is just strong, right? And that's been the case for most of this rally, right? I mean, Litecoin holders, for example, has been I mean, this, when you're looking at this chart, you're like, oh, these Litecoin holders, poor guys, they've been getting wrecked, right? But I mean, that's not necessarily the case on the USD basis, right? I mean, Litecoin USD still went up a shitload. So it's not really off of the backs of Litecoin. It's off of the back of Bitcoin, but it's still gone up, right? But yeah, for me, it's really important that these altcoins show relative strength against Bitcoin. Because something that we've been seeing is that the ones that do show relative strength against Bitcoin, Dogecoin, for example, being one of them, just follow through much harder than the ones that don't, right? And it makes sense because Bitcoin going up 500% in a day, very unrealistic, and altcoin going up 500% in a day, that can happen, but it's not going to be off of, okay, Bitcoin just moved 500%. It's going to be off of, okay, the Bitcoin pair just mega mooned. So, yeah. Someone asked about ETH. I think in ETH, it's pretty much the same kind of deal, right? You can pretty much ignore the entire chart, but other than the all-time high. So what I look for ETH, right? It's basically the same situation as Bitcoin. You've broken all-time high. What should happen? What shouldn't happen? It's the same as the thing that I explained earlier with Elon Musk and his buy on Bitcoin. We really shouldn't be going back to all-time high, because if we do, like, these kind of bull markets, they don't tend to make entries easy, right? And an all-time high entry would be kind of easy. What they tend to do is they tend to front run these levels. And if you compare ETH/USD with Bitcoin, we've broken all-time high here. We've had, like, it's not really the strongest kind of follow through, but then again, like, it's quite the move after having done this move, right? But if you compare it to Bitcoin, and it's all-time high, let me actually paint that really quick so I can make that point clearer. You broke the all-time high, and where's the retest? You never got one, and you shouldn't be, because if the market is ragingly bullish, what happens is this all-time high breaks and FOMO sets in, and everyone is kind of like, okay, now it's on. And that's what should be happening in the bull market. In general, the best kind of way to look at these things, and it's funny because it's been such a meme on crypto, Twitter, and everywhere, where everyone is trying to counter trade everyone, right? In a bull market, if you're trying to counter trade people, you're getting wrecked. It's not going to help you one bit. What you're going to be doing in a bull market, or what you want to be doing in a bull market, is you want to do the same thing as everyone else, right? Because everyone else is just going to aid you in making money, right? You buy in a coin like everyone else is, and you have buy support with you. People are going to buy, push price up, right? In the bear market, it's the opposite, because in the bear market, you chop around and you like do this kind of crap, which I love to trade. But still, in these kind of conditions, you can happily counter trade everyone else, because the moment too many people get on one side, they get completely wrecked, and then it just starts trending down. In the bull market, like I said, you don't want to be counter trading anyone, because, I mean, you see someone tweet about Bitcoin, like a celebrity or whatever, they're gonna bring in new buyers, right? So you're getting buy support from them. You're not getting a signal to sell. When it gets too crazy, you obviously do, right? In 17, at some point it gets crazy, and then the frenzy comes to a grinding halt, right? But in general, I would think, and I mean, for me, it's just been, I kind of nailed that moment really well in 17, but that could have gone wrong too, right? I think the better way to play these things, the top things, is waiting for the top to come in. It breaks down and you sell the complacency bounce, which is this one, right? Kind of aiming for the top is really difficult, and probably not worth it if you don't nail it on the first go. Because what happens otherwise is you're shorting and you're getting wrecked on the way, and then at some point you don't have ammo left for the top, and then, I mean, can drop, it can go down, it can go up, it doesn't really matter, because you've lost too much trying to short a bull market. So in my opinion, it makes much more sense to kind of see this develop in a bearish way and then pull the trigger. Okay, a bunch of people are talking about Serum. I'm gonna look at it in a second. Let me see what everyone else has written. Sam coins have saved my portfolio over and over. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying, right? You follow the big money, you follow the people that have been having success, because you know they have money to pump the shit out of these coins. It's much better than just being like, haha, everyone is on that side, I'm gonna counter trade it. So yeah, Serum. Let's first look at the BTC pair and then at the USD pair. So this is the kind of story where we have like a bearish USD pair. It's not really too bearish anymore, right? I would say this is the biggest resistance on the chart. And we have like a ragingly bullish USD pair, right? But in my opinion, you kind of have, I mean, this is pretty difficult to chart just based on the fact that probably no one trades on the BTC pair. But something like this, right? I think that's pretty good. So what you do have is this setup of you've broken down, you're shaking everyone out, you get back up, and then you kind of retest it as support, right? And as long as that support doesn't give, I think that's a pretty good invalidation on the BTC pair. It should be a relative free ride up to the next resistance, which is quite a bit away, right? That's 20-30%. Now, most people are probably going to trade this on the USD pair. I think watching both just makes sense. So if you see this drop below down here, it's probably bad. I wouldn't want to be holding it if it does drop below here. But as long as that support, I don't really see a good reason why it wouldn't go to resistance, right? But yeah, Serum USD, you look at this and you're like, oh yeah, that's why everyone keeps talking about it. And that just broke the highs. And same story as Bitcoin, right? And this is kind of the best thing that I can kind of teach you. You don't, like, in these situations, you don't have to fade anything. The only thing that you don't want to see is stuff that is super, super bullish be faded, right? So you don't have to be the one fading it. You just have to be the one that kind of sees it happen and then reacts accordingly. So in this case, you have this high, you break out. What can absolutely not happen? And that would be a close back below here. Until that happens, you're going to assume it's going to go up. And that's where we're going to make you money. That's as complicated as your trading has to be in these kind of circumstances, right? I mean, you can make it a little bit more scientific if you like from like in from down here, and then you really don't want to see this go, right? So the support below the high, but in my opinion, that's already enough. Like going back down here would be bad news. And then the good thing is, right, you don't have to necessarily see this, it goes down and you never touch it again, right? Because something that these things tend to do from time to time is like this breaks down, goes back into support, bounces. You still don't want to be touching it because it's trading below the high, and then it goes back above, and then you have your new invalidation and you just take it again. And then you got stopped out once, maybe in profit, maybe in a loss, right? But that's just part of the trading game. If you're an investor, you buy this and you just hold, right? And that's as complicated as it gets. You like the project and you just hold it. As a trader, sometimes you just have to take the stop out and reposition after that has happened. Because something that you don't want to be doing is like you trade this, you take on a long, it crashes down, and then you get forced to sell based on the market, and then it goes back up, right? Much better to have an invalidation, and even if it does go back up from your invalidation at some point, you can still get back in, right? Your average might be a little bit worse, but your risk is significantly reduced, and that's important. So, in my opinion, up until proven otherwise, and otherwise would be a break below all-time high again, where it starts like going sideways there. And a really bad sign would be losing this 2.8 to 3.1 area. Oh, that was a lot. Sorry for the rambling. What's up, boys? Guess what? Your private group won't tell you. It's over. It's not going up anymore. It's going down. It's been a long time, boys, but I think we're finally here. We found the top. Good old copy pastas. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily true. It might be true, and that's the thing. You don't have to be right. You just have to be in for the ride, basically. And then at some point, when it does turn, you're gonna have to have your invalidation, and then that's it. So yeah. Sorry I was late, Doug. Hope all is good with you. All the best. Doing good. This Doug, don't worry, we have supported 20 and 14K. Yeah, I mean, that's the worst part about it, right? Whenever I say that, I sound crazy. But it's just me saying basically this is a bull trend on the higher time frames. And the higher time frames are going to be bullish for a long time. The lower time frames, you have supports at 40K, right? Which shouldn't give. And if those start giving out, which there has not been any indication of, right? Then you can kind of look for the higher time frame supports, right? So what you do in general in these trends is you don't really have to use the high time frames too much, but once shit hits the fan, and I mean, be that at 50K or 80K or 100K, you want to be looking at the high time frames, right? So when it gets completely crazy, you want to be certain that, okay, I'm going to be happy buying at like this support level or at 20K support level when it gets completely crazy. And it might be that we go up here, consolidate, go up to 200K or whatever. I mean, who knows at this point, right? And then you have a high time frame area of support here, right? And then you want to have that in your eyes. So like these high time frame supports, they're only there to kind of make you find areas that you want to be buying when it all goes to shit. And it's going to go to shit at some point. It's just a question of, is that going to be from 50K, from 80K, from 100K? No one knows, right? But if it does, you want to be ready to buy. And the high time frame areas of support are just the best areas to buy for swing trades. And just based on, they're not hitting too often, doesn't mean, okay, I'm just going to ignore them, because those are going to be the best trades that you're going to get. Just going to take a while. And I'm not saying 14K is going to be hit, like I said, and 20K is going to be hit. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if shit hits the fan, you're looking for the higher time frame areas. And that's why I want this to kind of consolidate for a while, so that we have new higher time frame areas, right? So we kind of put in a higher time frame consolidation area here, just based on the fact that we spent some time here. Would be nice to kind of get like a red monthly at some point, maybe a little bit of a pullback 1 or 2 months in a row, so that we have support on the way up. So for example, this, even though we completely nuked through it, this was enough for me to judge that I was going to be buying in that area. Obviously didn't do too well immediately, right? I mean, I bought the lower boundary of that 4.2K and I broke down lower, just bought more. But like in general, like on the higher time frames when it goes crazy, it's just nice to have some support below you. So that's why I'm hoping for it to go sideways a little bit, but I mean, it's just probably not gonna. So yeah. Can you take a look at Cardano? Yeah, I can. I can indeed. This was actually one that Cred and I wanted to put in the newsletter, just based on the fact that we really like this retest. Problem with that was that there was not too good of a setup there. So we both had the idea that ADA was going to go up because it's shown some real strength, but getting a good setup on this is really hard because it's just chopped so hard in the past. But yeah, I think this is pretty bullish. We've pulled back to support-ish, didn't really quite reach it, and it just went up. I don't really see a good reason to be bearish on this. I mean, there's resistance now where we are now. So it kind of went from support to resistance immediately. But then again, that's been tested already. So even if this goes back down again, which I'm not saying it will, but if it does, I think the 113 or like 1,300 area is a good area to look at. And that's Bittrex, so you know the sats are going to be fine. Because something that for the people that are a little bit newer, Binance sometimes shows 7 digits instead of 8. Don't ask me why. So if you're saying, okay, if you're looking at Cardano on Binance, you might be seeing 134 with the last digit cut off, right? And then you're going to be the idiot that says, okay, this is 134 sats instead of 1,340. Something to keep in mind. But yeah, I think this is a really good support. It's front ran a little bit. It's showing incredible strength against pretty much anything, and has the advantage of being an ETH competitor, right? And with ETH fees so high that most normies can't use it anymore, it's just normal that you get capital rotation into the ETH competitors. And it's not necessarily because, okay, normies are kind of just trying out to buy like other stuff. It's just the narrative of rich people basically looking at the competitors of ETH, and they're seeing, okay, ETH is struggling, so we're just going to rotate into a competitor, and that's where we're going to go up. So it's just narrative game, if anything. But I mean, that's something that you want to be having behind you when you're trading, right? You're trading an altcoin, you have a good narrative going. It's half of the equation already done, because good narrative and then a good chart on top, and that's going to be good. But like I said, this is resistance. You want to see that kind of get blown out, and then maybe it goes higher, or just a pullback to support, and then take a stab at it there. But I don't mind ADA. Last time I really traded ADA actively, was shorting it from here to into the screen support. I closed early, but yeah. I was looking at it relatively often actually. I was like, this is showing incredible strength. Want to get into it, and then just never did. So that's a miss on my part. But yeah, I don't like ADA as a project necessarily, but I do like the chart. So yeah. Is 1 to 2% scalp trading sustainable? I've been watching your videos, but can never sit through these high time frame moves. I always enter exit intraday, but the gain is only 1 to 2%. It's a good question. I hope everyone else is not going to mind, but I can go through it real quick. So on most exchanges, right? You're looking at leverage kind of exchanges. You have fees that you're going to have to pay if you market buy in and out, right? So let's say you want to be trading low time frames. You enter here. Your target is, okay, let's say in this area, right? So up here, and your stop loss is below this rust candle or whatever, and you have your setup, and you're like, okay, this is a good trade, right? I mean, I personally don't trade like this, but I've seen plenty of people do it, right? So it's kind of like you look at this and you're like, okay, my risk reward ratio is 1.27, so this is a good trade. But what you disregard in this is that to get in, almost everyone is market buying, and to get out, almost everyone is market selling. So you have to pay fees on top of that, right? And then if you go to the exchange and look up the fees, that's almost your stop loss again on top of it, right? So you're paying the fees, you're paying everything to kind of get into that position. So your risk basically doubles, and then it's a really shit trade. And the higher time frame you go, the bigger the moves you play, the less impactful the fee of the trade is gonna be, right? So if you're trading for $100 gain and $100 loss on Bitcoin, fees are gonna fuck your shit up, basically. And the odds heavily swing against you just based on the fact that you're going to have to pay fees. If you're zooming out a little and you're playing 1K moves to the up and the downside, then those fees are going to be having less of an impact, right? And then if you zoom out and play 10K moves, the fees have even less of an impact. So the higher time frame you go, the less edge you lose based on the fees. And that's a big part of trading that a lot of people underestimate. And obviously slippage as well, right? Let's say you get stopped out, and it's going to be like a candle like this, where it's pretty much straight down or straight up. You obviously pay that on top as well. So people underestimate how much money they're paying in fees, how much edge they're losing, so how good they have to be, right? Because if you're trading these low time frames, you're not going to have to be better than like the average, you're going to have to be significantly better to kind of make up for the fees. And you might be saying, yeah, I'm not going to market buy and market sell, but your stop loss is always going to be a market sell or market buy, because when you're trading these low time frames and you don't have a hard stop loss, you just get wrecked completely. So in my opinion, if you're not a trading god that just can kind of read these moves, you're probably going to bleed out over the long run if you're just trading the low time frames. During volatility like this, it's a little bit easier. So, I mean, go ahead at it. But the moment the market kind of changes a little bit, you get wrecked. So you're going to have to be really good to trade the low time frames, in my opinion. And I mean, it just makes sense mathematically, right? You just pay so much in fees, you pay so much in slippage, that it's going to be very difficult to find enough edge to make it worthwhile. So yeah, that's kind of my short answer to it. I'm gonna write. I think I've already written an article about it, but I'm gonna refresh that and do it again, because I see a lot of people lose a lot of money in a market like this where it's just going up like crazy, and that's not a good thing. You can get rich on the low time frames, but most people get poor. So yeah. I think Tesla news is bearish because Tesla dumped after announcing buying Bitcoin. Other corporations will not want to buy Bitcoin in case their shares dump too. I don't think that's necessarily the case, because I mean that's just very, very short term thinking, right? Doesn't really. I don't think it's bearish news for Bitcoin just because Tesla stock dumped. Just means that, I mean, there's old money in Tesla, right? And if they don't like that Tesla is taking on the Bitcoin risk, they can sell, right? And price can go down. But I mean, it's still 1.5 billion pumped into the Bitcoin market. Now, if we're talking, okay, we're losing this news pump and we're starting to lose support where Tesla bought, right? Which is 30 to 33K, that area. Then I'm going to have to agree with you. And I know that's quite the drop, right? But then again, this has been the rally, right? So you can afford to take a big drop to kind of invalidate you. And until that happens, I don't see a good case to make that it's bearish, the news are bearish, whatever. More trades doesn't mean more money. Exactly. I think a lot of people are over trading in this market. They're like, oh, I want to take advantage of every single move. And what you do instead is just you chop yourself up and then you get poor in a bull market. And I've seen many people go through it. I've seen friends go through it, and it's never a pretty sight. And then you see people holding an altcoin and just make 5x in 2 days. And you're like, okay, why would you be over trading the low time frames if you could just swing trade some of these altcoins? Doesn't make much sense. How long do you see this pump last? Have we peaked? I think in general, kind of picking the tops this time around is pretty much going to be almost impossible. So what you do is you look for this kind of stuff. And if we trade below 30K again, I'm going to think that we have peaked and I'm going to trade that way. But until then, I don't really see a good reason to. I'm bullish on crypto, but it's good to think about possible bearish angles once in a while to keep yourself in check. I agree. I think in general, that should be like in a market like this pretty much should be all you're thinking about. I mean, you're trading this, right? But you should always have your invalidation set on the chart, and you should always know what you're going to do if that hits. And the good thing about bull markets is that invalidation is going to move up continuously, right? So if you go back in time, where has your invalidation been? So let's say you got long in here, it pumped, you see the Sailor news and Sailor buying. That's going to be your invalidation. It moves up a little. It really shouldn't go back below there. That's your invalidation. Goes up a lot. Your invalidation is technically still down here, right? And that's fine. Sometimes you just have to take a risk. And then it breaks all-time high. And then your new invalidation is either down here, which is aggressive, or down here, right? So it moved up a little again. Then it trades all the way up here, puts in the first kind of market structure break, whatever. And then your new invalidation is here where Elon Musk Elon, Jesus Christ, people are gonna make fun of me again. Shit. Elon or like Tesla bought. So your new invalidation is here, right? This moves further up, and something crazy happens again, and this goes sideways. Your invalidation is gonna be here, right? So you're taking profits basically, moving it up as you go, and then once it does start breaking down and you get out, you can kind of just buy the dip. I mean, it's probably not going to go like this, but you get the point. You can buy the dip or you can do whatever you want to. At some point, the longs are going to be invalidated. It's just a question of when. And kind of predicting that when is really hard, and you don't really have to do it when you can just do it like that, right? You just move it up. And during a parabolic rise, you're not going to have problems with getting stop run or any of that stuff. So you kind of have it really easy in the sense that you're just like, okay, I'm moving up. And then at some point, let's say you hit the goal, or you're like, okay, if I sold like 20%, I could buy off or like pay off my house. I don't really see a good reason why you wouldn't. If that kind of helps you in your mental fortitude and everything else, right? Taking some profit along the way while it goes up is not necessarily the worst thing to do. So you are amazing. I still remember you were one of the rare ones who had got it right, the start of downwards trend. Yeah, I still remember that. That was, I mean, honestly, I was still a little bit green behind the ears. I think that's the saying anyway. I still remember like selling here and then even more selling here and here. Like those were like the three big sells where I just basically got out of everything. And I was shaking while doing this. Like I was literally like physically shaking, taking profits there. And once I got out completely, which was basically this, where I mean, I was taking profits here, and then I short hedged pretty much everything that I had into these highs, right back at 20K. But yeah, I was shaking doing this, and I was completely terrified of kind of losing life-changing money, or like even more life-changing money, because that has already been like that was already a crazy run to me. So if you're selling and you're starting to shake, it's probably a good time to sell, even if you're not gonna feel like it's gonna be a good time. I've not had that since, but yeah, that was crazy. And yeah, I would say I still got pretty lucky there, and not betting on getting too lucky again. So you don't have to necessarily be lucky. You can take, like, that's the thing, right? Like, let's say you take this 20K to 6K, or this was 10K drop and then this 6K. So you take that 20K to 10K haircut, it bounces, you see a complacency bounce, and you get out there. You can take that haircut. That's not too terrible of a haircut, right? And even if you're late at selling in here, or even in here where it was pretty damn clear I was going to break down, in my opinion, you've given back like 50% of the bull market run, basically, if you sold even in here. But that's just how this market goes, right? You gave basically back in 17. You basically gave back the last 2 months if you sold in here. I mean, that should be doable, right? If you've taken the entire run, or even if you've only taken part of the run, it's going to be the same story here, right? This is going to go, and who knows where it's going to top out, but you're going to give back half of the run, and that's going to be fine. Because, I mean, it's rallied so much that even if you give back half of the run, you've still made so much money on the way up that it's completely fine. It's just how it is. The only thing that you don't want to be doing is that once it actually you get invalidated, you don't want to be sticking around too much. You want to be giving it some time and then maybe get in a year later or something. Boomer living in the glories of the very past concerning up more than 2x. I mean, you Jesus Christ. Need to block cred before doing this. But yeah, you can go even further back in time, look at older highs, or look at other markets and highs and how those played out, right? You don't necessarily have to take and aim at the high. You can just let this run until you invalidate it, is my point. I hope that makes sense. How do you know the difference between a bounce and a complacency bounce? I mean, the moment, and this is something you could technically make an argument for even here, right? The moment you get market structure change and this just starts behaving bearish, right? In my opinion, that pretty much did. Broke down here, retested, and then, I mean, that's basically where you start hedging, and then you get back out once it does start retesting as support. It's basically, sometimes you just have to take those trades and take a tiny loss. I mean, that can be a hedge, right? You see a breakdown, you're like, okay, I'm gonna basically try to short this complacency bounce. I mean, this is not necessarily that, but it's close enough. Trying to short the complacency bounce, and the moment it doesn't materialize immediately, you're basically, okay, it's just not what I thought it was. And you either do this or you wait for a massive breakdown where it's pretty obvious that the bubble has popped. And there's going to be a lot of people around. There's a lot of good traders nowadays on Twitter that are going to be like, okay, now we've kind of overheated and dropped so much that I could see the top being in. And I mean, the difference, it feels different. Like this, I mean, it wasn't necessarily bullish down here. But it didn't really feel like it was over. But then again, like, that's just experience, right? So in my opinion, best way to go about it is just hedging once it does start turning bearish, and then closing the hedge once it turns back bullish. You don't need to short it. You don't need to make money off of the drop. You just want to keep what you've made during the bull run, right? And if it's going to cost you, how much is this? Even if you sell the top here, if it's going to cost you 3% to kind of avoid being the guy that held through the top and then all the way back down again, I think that's a good trade-off to take. So that's kind of how I look at it anyway. For me, when the market goes completely crazy, I just kind of get a feeling for it. But the best thing to do is really talk with other traders, kind of see where they're at. I like to kind of go to Cred, go to Loom, go to a bunch of other people, ask them what they think, ask them how it looks, look at the leverage in the system, look if there's really retail interest. Like I said, you saw infinite bid coming here, same as it happened in here, right? Jules and I talked about it down here, and we're like, okay, this is so weird. There's no real reason why this should be going up, but Spot is just buying this up completely. And when you see that, you know, okay, this is a spot-fueled rally. Spot is buying this. It's probably going to go further up. So you didn't even need to wait for this, because the moment you saw that and you saw Coinbase actually front run the derivatives hard, just jumped by, like, I remember it jumping by like 200 above the derivatives, as in BitMEX, Bybit, everyone else. Yeah, and there's just a big difference there. Any comment on so high OI on Bybit, and what if those degens could be flushed? It's 1.5 billion and growing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that is scary. I think in general there's a good chance that we get an OI flush. Like I said, I think the really, really strong area that we shouldn't break is 30K. 30 to 33. If we undercut this is already a sign that we're at best in for some chop. Yeah. Oh, I think I might have forgot to shout out Bybit at the start. I'm gonna have to do it twice now, because they're sponsoring the show. Really appreciate their support. The links are in the description. If you want to check them out, and then I'll do it again at the end and feel bad about it, because they've been nice to us, and I just kind of forgot. I think I did anyway. Might have not forgot, but I think I did, like, looking back at it now. But yeah, they sponsor the show. Like I said, links in the description if you want to check them out. But yeah, in my opinion, like I said, 30, 33K in that area, this is key. And this is bad news. Like, if you get a flush down here in the wick, and then you wick back up, and then you just kind of go like this, it's completely fine, right? And that could happen based on how each and everyone is going, right? But I hate this new thing where when you click, you make a dot. But yeah, this really shouldn't give. This is first trouble where you're like, oh, okay, this is getting dicey. I don't want to see that get lost. This is really bad. And unless that happens, like unless both happens, I'm gonna be expecting upside until not. Arrived now and you see a massive green line down. Yeah, that's been the entire stream, bro. I've just been making Duma calls the entire day. Just been like, okay, this is going back to 4K. Satoshi to jail. That's been basically the entire stream. Good that you came in. Logo is there, no biggie. No, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure that's all right. But yeah. So bearish. Oh no, people are gonna believe me now. Can't make jokes nowadays. Don does. Can you please check the weekly view of current top compared to the daily 20K top? Does it look the same? Oh, you mean this recent, or like does the current weekly look like this? No. I mean, you can kind of see like you've had this and then went down. What we have now, have this. And even if we go down, that's a different kind of structure. But yeah, I think in general, like this weekly, I really like this weekly. I like that we finally have some structure to kind of make a bias off of. This is really strong support. And it kind of aligns with the daily view that I've told you guys. 30 to 33 is what I said, right? So this lower boundary is really, really key. And let's say the daily loses that, you're going to know, and you're going to see on the weekly that's market structure broken. And then you could get the same thing where you get a high and then lower high down here. And that could happen, right? But this doesn't really make much sense to speculate about because really it's bullish right now. And people are going to take screenshots and make me into the biggest perma bear ever. I'm already used to it. But like before you actually break this, you don't have to guess the top, right? You can just kind of expect this to go up. And I mean, it has so far. But if it does break, you need to know what to do. And if it does break, I mean, would be in for a shitload of trouble, which, I mean, given recent history, wouldn't make much sense to expect. So I think it's the best way to go about it is just be naive and super happy about the rise and look at it from a perspective of this is gonna only go up, and then at some point when it doesn't anymore and when you're proven wrong, then you kind of pull the plug. Because if you've pulled the plug anywhere on this, you're not happy about it right now, right? So much better to just give it the room it needs to, and the room that it does need to get is 32, 33, 31, that area. I mean, if you want to make a weekly box, maybe the big box here isn't even the one that you need. It's down here. This shouldn't give. You could wick into this, it'd be fine. But I mean, I wouldn't expect it. So yeah. Boss, all the apes right now on BSC. Can you check out BNBs and the other stuff and Cake? I've already talked about Cake. I mean, there's not really much that I can do on those fronts. The thing with these things is, right, you see these rallies, you're like, Don, what do I do? And I mean, I can't help you looking at this. I mean, there's nothing technical about this. You're bullish on this based on fundamentals. I mean, it might be a little bit crazy to buy in right now after this rally, but still, like, if you're bullish on this fundamentally, do whatever you want to, right? If you're bullish on this and you wanna be looking for some exposure anyway, you get it, right? Technicals really, like, you have support down here ish in the $2 area. Now, is it gonna go there ever? I don't know, right? I have no idea. I know that if this mega nukes for some reason, that the $2 area is going to be an interesting one buy a massive wick. What's the chance of that happening? I have no idea. And I mean, I wouldn't expect it, right? But that's the problem with like technical analysis. It can only go so far. This goes completely crazy, and you're like, okay, can I have a technical view of this? And I mean, I can't really give you one. This is going parabolic. This could go to 20. It could go 80% down. And I can't really help you there. It's just, it sucks to say, right? Because I would love to say, okay, at this and this point, you do this and this. But with markets, it's not that easy, right? So you map out the best support that you could get. Maybe you get lucky there, maybe you don't. And if you're already in, you expect the moon until it starts invalidating you. And I think that's been, I mean, it's just been the best strategy in this market. You expect the moon until it doesn't happen anymore. And then it invalidates you and you get out and then it goes down 80%. I mean, we've had that before. And it goes down 80% or 95% and then it goes back up, right? And then you can buy the dip at some point. But that's kind of how this market has been going, just up until proven otherwise. So what you do is you expect up and you look for support areas to buy the dip at, and then you buy the dip. And then if those fail, you get out and let it do its thing. Boss, those projects are going up because of the money moved there. I know that those are basically on the Binance chain, the same thing, like it's DeFi on the Binance, which is hilarious in its own right. I'm not gonna talk shit about it. I mean, it's not really decentralized, but it's basically money, people chasing the narrative, and I mean, it's fine, and maybe it does really well. I wouldn't mind, but like I said, gotta be careful, have your invalidations and play within those. For example, for sushi, you really wouldn't want to see it go back below like 9, in my opinion. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive, really shouldn't take that out again. But I think this is the better invalidation. And then you go from there, right? If you want to be bearish here, it's fine, but have an invalidation to the upside. If you want to be bullish here, it's fine, but have an invalidation to the downside. And I feel like most people just at this kind of stage in the cycle just throw the invalidation out the window, and that's dangerous. You don't want to be the guy that gets wrecked just based on the fact that you've gotten too greedy on the last few big legs on these coins. Not saying we're coming to an end here. Like I said, I have just no idea. These could go much higher, these could go much lower. The only thing that you can do, in my opinion, is you long support and then just pray to God that you didn't just buy the top after a mega rally. And that's just how it is, and that's fine. Should have all in the newsletter long, feels bad, man. Yeah, the newsletter's been talking bullish since this red line. We've been like, this is a bullish retest, gonna go up until proven otherwise. Never proved otherwise, just went up. So like, let's say the swing, the newsletter is in a swing long. How do you do this, right? So it's swing long from here. How do you manage this position? And in my view, let's say this breaks to the downside. Doesn't have to. I hate that I have to kind of say this a million times over. But let's say this breaks to the downside, starts closing down here, bounces maybe, you get out on the bounce, and you have taken this entire rally, which is basically a 4x. And you've given back a bunch of money. You went from a 7x to 4x, which sucks, right? But if you always take profit the moment it starts getting dicey, and you miss out the entire rally. This is just how you trade swings, right? You, like, let's say you have this move. You have this move, and you're not trying, like as a swing trader, you're not trying to buy this and you buy and sell here. What you're trying to do is buying here and you're selling. You're selling here or here. You know, you're not trying to kind of get this and then get the eventual top and then be like, I'm the best trader. That's not how you do. You're trying to kind of get as close to the bottom as you can once you get like a good entry, and then you're trying to get out as close to the top as you can. Let's say it does something like this, and then you get out here, or you get out even down here before it goes back to like 2 or whatever, if it does so. You get the point. You don't have to get the top and the bottom, you just need to get the meat of the move. And the meat of the move, even if you missed out this entire rally, has been this. And then maybe you get top here, maybe you don't. Yeah. Okay. I think that's basically enough. I'm already getting like a little bit sore throat. Haven't had enough water beside me. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Big shout out to Bybit for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate their support. Their links are in the description if you want to check them out. Like I said earlier, they've been good to work with, and they've supported no matter what we talk about. I mean, Sushi doesn't really have much to do with them, but they're still happy to pay us to talk about it. So really appreciate their support. And yeah, if you want to check them out, kind of do them and us a favor. Links in the description. And yeah, thanks for coming by. If you kind of new, subscribe or whatever, the usual stuff that YouTubers ask for, you know the drill. I have no idea. Like, I always forget to ask for this kind of stuff. But yeah, I appreciate you coming by nonetheless. Appreciate you hanging out and being as lively as you have been in the chat. And we'll see each other on Friday. Bye bye. Patreon OnlyFans Teespring. Shit. I don't have any of those yet.